Well, the reason we chose Frontline, I mean, it has a reputation for being a club based upon brave journalism. I mean, heroically and brave journalism in the case of Frontline. And that's something that we are proud to have an association with, as opposed to some other places where the messages are a bit more mixed.
The crime of torture is somehow secret, that it's a threat to national security to reveal that. It is a threat to politicians. It's embarrassing. It's going to get them in trouble. It's a threat to the people who committed the crimes. It's going to get them prosecuted. But it can't be a threat to national security.
What's going to happen to journalism in general, to newspapers, and indeed to my own organisation, the BBC, God knows. And I don't think, well, I'm certain, that at no stage in the period that I was covering did anybody have anything like the degree of uncertainty and doubt about the future that we now have.
7 men were murdered. 3 of the men were killed with single sniper shots to the head or the heart. 2 of the men were injured, but not fatally, and died of their injuries in police custody. And 2 men, my father and Ashik Jathoui, were shot several times, but died due to point-blank execution shots.
But you know, someone wonderfully said, who knew him quite well, people think 2 things about George W. Bush, that he's stupid and that he's nice. Neither are true.
I met this woman in North Tehran, which is sort of the richer part of town, and she had a big black poodle that she'd taken for a walk, and it sort of got from me to the corner of that room away from her, and along comes a motorcycle with 2 guys on it, and the guy in the back zips down and takes the dog and disappears. She was dog napped. But she was a smart woman, and she figured that, you know, it would probably show up in the animal bazaar. And so I went down there, and I don't know what section of London they sell drugs in, but there's a part, you know, when you're wandering around New York, there's certain parts of town when you walk through, or at least before Giuliani, where sort of drug dealers would come up and whisper in your ear, and it was like that. I'd get out of the car, and people see that I'm a foreigner, and they assume I'm looking for a dog, and they'd come up and they'd whisper in my ear, "Got a dog, I got a dog, you want to buy a dog?" Or a few of them were more specific. One guy came up and said, "I got a German Shepherd, you want a German Shepherd?"
Now, it made the Pentagon's point of view be not news that there were 5 9/11s worth of civilian deaths that hadn't been reported, 15,000. Or another way to put it would be 30 My Lai massacres, 500 each, because they're only Iraqis. Presumably, if they'd been Americans that hadn't been counted, we would regard that as news. But the rest of the world does regard it as news, and I would say it's crucial context for judging the policy.
Were you just trying it on, in other words?
Yeah, of course they were just trying it on.
I think everyone tries it on. I think
Lawyers do it all the time. You say, we don't know if this will work, but we'll give it a go.
you're given maybe 1 or 2 hours notice sometimes before you go into court. It's like emergency operations.
The initial one, I'm saying the second time, with 2 days of considered thought, you probably wouldn't have got it, would you?
I mean, I simply don't know. It would have depended on the evidence.
But I think if the answer was probably yes, you'd say probably yes. Whereas I think if the answer was probably no, you'd be a bit more ambivalent.
Well, you might be right, but I'm just giving you...
I think we're going to stop that cross-examination at that point.
I came across an article you wrote for the New Statesman in 1993, going back a bit now.
Stop now.
You took quite a strongly partitionist position in this article, and you said the only viable solution is to divide Bosnia between the 3 ethnicities, and...
I never said any such thing.
Okay, well, I have it here, and you can verify it.
Oh, no, God, you know, I wrote this article in 1993, apparently. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a long time ago. Um,
Do you remember holding these views?
no. And it's bollocks, by the way.
Frontline is sort of unique. There's really nowhere else in London. There's sort of nowhere else anywhere, which brings together such an extraordinarily varied group of people from all over the world. London's got the advantage of being central, so an enormous number of people come through. But Frontline is the place where you come to hear them, whether it's the documentaries that they do on a daily basis, which are better than anything else around, really are better than anywhere else, anywhere in London. Or the networking events, or just the fact of turning up in the bar and meeting a whole bunch of people that you haven't seen for a long time. It's sort of unique in its own way. I think it's the pride of London, and it's the envy of a lot of other places around the world.